Hey everybody, it's Josh Rutledge, your co-host for FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support us more, please head over to our website, FearScapePodcast.com. There you can click on store and browse some really awesome t-shirts and maybe pick a couple up, or even go to our Patreon page and see how you can support us monthly. We love bringing you awesome content just as much as you like listening to it. Enjoy the show.
Hello, I'm so glad you could join us. I hope you brought your blanket to hide under. The spooky crew is going to discuss things and events from other realms. Ghosts, cryptids, aliens. Be sure to hold your blanket extra tight as the boys take you deep into the FearScape.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another spooky, ooky, creepy, eepy, scary, hairy episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Man, I am your host, Stefan Gerhardt, joined as always by the lusciously lipped Josh Rutledge. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you very much. It's the first time that I've been referred to as lusciously when talking about my lips, but I appreciate the compliment.
Look at them.
Yeah.
I'm used to seeing them.
Pretty lips.
I'm used to seeing them pressed against my butt, but
oh, how do you see that? How do you see that pressed against your butt?
I have mirrors. I have mirrors and body cams everywhere.
That's the next level of astral projection. Astral projection.
He's got that lipstick camera shoved,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as you can tell, we have a very, very special guest for a very special episode. We got another Gettin' Spooky episode, but this time it's with one of our friends that's been on the show twice with us now. I love this guy. This Santosh David, ladies and gentlemen. Say hello.
I wanted you to say my friend and yours.
My friend and yours, Santosh David. How are you, Santosh?
Freaking honored to be here. I've wanted to do a Gettin' Spooky since I knew they existed back in the day. And so this is a super treat. Super treat.
I have poorly told many of your tales on this show over the years.
I know.
So we will do our best here.
Well, what we'll do is we'll basically let Stefan tell the story, and then you can tell us how it's wrong, and then
yeah,
we'll tell us
Yes,
the truth.
exactly.
That's pretty much the truth. That's pretty much the truth. All right, before we get into that, we need to get into our segments, and the first one, as usual, is going to be our psychic word or words of the week. And now, the psychic word of the week. All right, we have got our psychic words of the week coming from the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary by June Bletzer. This week, I have psychically spun the pages and landed on a really creepy sounding one. And this one, the term for the week is slaying in the spirit. Yeah, and there's dashes.
Wait, hold on, like gay, like Ghosty, you are slaying.
Girl, you are slaying it in that spirit. And this is dashes in between each word. So what it says is to lightly touch the forehead of an individual with the first two fingers of the right hand and cause the individual to fall to the floor unharmed with the intention that he or she will receive a bolt of Holy Spirit energy performed by an evangelist at a charismatic meeting that is designed to stir the emotions of the members. Individual falls backwards in a prone position, fully relaxed, instantaneously with the touch. Workers then help to ease the slain individuals to the floor as they are touched one after another. They lie on the floor until normal consciousness returns. Purpose is to receive a physical healing or change in attitude. Not all who fall backward are healed. There is a theory that a group elemental is built through loud rhythmic music and emotional ploy from the leader beforehand, composed to put the group in unison of thought. Group's expectation and desire for the healings and falling backwards causes it to happen.
Yeah, so this ties back in our group elemental.
And that was again
weeks ago,
purely unintentional. Like, it's so weird that was our word a week or two ago, and then just I didn't even mean to do that.
You know, there's like, obviously I want to make the whole like Benny Hinn jokes and things like that, but in yoga, in yogic tradition, there is a touch that the guru can give that brings enlightenment like that.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Yeah, when my guru thwacked me on the head one morning when I was in meditation, I was like, was that supposed to be it?
I'd be like, you did what?
But more than likely, I was just sitting there needing a thwack on the head. So,
right.
Also, I don't really know a good place to insert, but I'll just say, I wonder if the author ever got, bless her heart.
Oh. That was good and bad all at the same time. But
before we get away, like, I want to let the listeners know, because I've not seen the book in person IRL. I just did because we're like video conferencing this. And that is one of those weapons, you know, people out there, you know what I'm talking about, where you go into a house or in your own house, you're like, what has the heft that if I were being like attacked, would I grab and use as a weapon? Most often it's statuary, but that book would be a good defense weapon.
Oh man, this sucker's heavy, dude. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, but it's like a soft copy. I mean, it's like limp.
I mean, this thing's.
You never been struck with a big heavy limp thing?
Hey, I don't want to learn about your yogic practice.
It'll stop your robberies right there. Trust me.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
Mary and Joseph.
But yeah, I mean, how many times have you seen those Benny Hinn specials or any of those things where, I mean, and that there's that one where the guy can get the entire like stadium to like.
Right. It's like dominoes.
Oh, Stefan though. Oh, sorry. No, you go ahead. I'll hold on mine, Josh.
I was just gonna say it's like dominoes. You touch the first row and they all just kind of fall back.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What about a Reiki bomb? What if you could contract your Reiki into a little like pill? You know what I'm saying? Like a little potent pill like that, and drop it on someone. We're gonna have to experiment now.
Yes, for sure. And
is that kind of like the Arukas? You know that.
Well, I was about to say there is a really fantastic YouTube video that's out there, and it's somebody that had taken a lot of those Benny Hinn and all those like preacher videos, and anytime they would start to fall back, you'd hear Shoryuken, or they actually put like Kano, or not Kano, but like Ryu or any of those, and put them like Photoshop them in doing their final move. It's so
that's
freaking
amazing.
hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a bunch
can also
of them.
create this effect. Darren Brown is a phenomenal like hypnotist, and he has a show that's specifically about recreating that revival frenzy, and people actually had like healings occur, but it, you know, like vision change, like sight vision changes, things like that, and the pass out thing was used at one point too, and it was all just, and he flat out said that's what it was. So people went in kind of knowing, and it could still produce this hypnotic effect upon the audience, and that was one of them as well.
You know, this makes me, so these two things coupled together, the group elemental and then this that we're talking about here, makes me think about the God helmet and that they use in the Hellier series, and what, you know, so the God helmet is of course changing or doing something with like
stimulating
the brain or whatever to make you have or to simulate a religious or experience. It makes me wonder if it is also producing that faux group element without the other group being there. If it's basically boosting the output, you will, of the one individual wearing the helmet to create that group elemental without a group being in place.
Well, in certain Wiccan traditions, and Steph can attest to this too, especially like in British Wiccan tradition, in certain circles with the right people, you feel the weight of all of the group that isn't there.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so I don't know. I'm fascinated on a couple of levels, like yogically and from like a witchcraft standpoint. I don't know. Like,
well, I mean, it has been
on
part
this.
of my quest for a long time, especially when I became a Southern Baptist. When I first felt that God, what's the euphoria, right?
Mm-hmm,
you know, when you're in praise and worship and stuff. And I was like, where is this? Is this in other religions? And through my own path, and I have indeed. I've found it during meditation. I have found it when I'm doing like ghost hunting stuff. Like I get so just in this and helping a spirit move to the other side and things like that, that I can actually feel that again, as well as, you know, a Wicca, of course, many times, especially like raising the cone of power. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
Well, I can tell you that when we did the thing at the Bardstown, in the theater there, when you know I was the dowsing rods and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, when we were intentionally raising the cone of power. That's what was happening, and I was like the center of it. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop moving, and I mean, I was doing the Ouija board by myself. Like I'd never done. Like, it was crazy.
I really wish we would have videoed that whole thing. I mean,
I know, but
I'm so mad I flaked on that night.
The stupid monster was sleeping. Naoma's husband, who was doing all the filming, fell asleep like real early on. And so in a lot of the audio recordings, you're always like, oh shit, what was that? Oh, it's just Mitch snoring. But anyways, talking about Mitch snoring and spooky stuff like that, let's
get to creepy catch up.
Not yet. We're going to spooky news first.
Oh, okay.
All right, so spooky news. I got a weird one, and man, like I almost want to share my screen with you guys, just show you how creepy this damn picture is.
Do it.
Okay.
That's not that creepy looking though.
Yes, it is too. But anyways, so the headline coming from timeout.com says that people have dressed up as ghosts to enforce lockdown in Indonesia. And so this says, as social distancing rules spread around the world, not everyone is following them to the letter. Many governments have introduced fines and other measures to enforce the World Health Organization's public health guidelines, but a few have been a little more creative, including a local youth group in central Java, Indonesia. Working with the local police, volunteers in the village of Kupuh have been trying to scare people into staying at home by dressing up as ghosts. Earlier this month, volunteers were reportedly deployed in Kupuh dressed as pokong, folkloric figures that represent dead souls trapped in shrouds. According to Reuters, the ghostly white figures were sent into the streets with the aim of deterring villagers, especially children, from hanging around outside after dark. Despite the mounting deaths in the country, Indonesia only introduced lockdown measures this week. And so this was April 28th when this dropped. At first, the spooky new tactics didn't work so well. Instead of staying at home, local residents are said to have come out specifically just to see the mysterious pokong patrols. But apparently, the measures have since become more effective at stopping people going out and about. Since the pokong appeared, parents and children have not left their homes, said one local resident. So if this one village is anything to go by, ghost cops could be just the thing to keep us all safe right now.
Isn't there a movie with what's his face, Ryan Reynolds, where he's a ghost cop?
Oh yeah, what's it called? The paranormal. It's got
Oh, that was like RIPD or something.
Yeah,
like
RIPD. That's what it is. I'm over here at UAP. This is not an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
RIPD. That's what Anita Blake's team is called.
I just too much have been watching too much undisclosed or unidentified, the UFO show on history, and so I've been thinking UAPs. But yeah, Anita Blake. I got you, boo. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, dude. I cannot tell you the amount of people here that are still just going out. And I mean, they're just at stores, like no mask. I saw this woman at Kroger the other day pull her mask down to sneeze and then put it back up. And I was like, what?
You seen?
Hold on, baby. I gotta take off this condom to come.
I'm like, it ain't. I'm
Like, what the
it
hell?
ain't just for
What the
you
hell?
to be safe; it's for us to be safe too. Like,
what's the picture? I think it was Stefan, you or our good friend, the theologian, sent us that the woman at Walmart or whatever wearing.
oh, it was me. Yeah, wearing the sleep apnea mask.
Yeah. Zero filter whatsoever.
No filter. The tube just hanging halfway down. Wearing that sleep apnea mask. I mean,
Did you look like Sandman?
no, not even close. Not even close. She looked like a sandcastle. But yeah, it was funny. I'm like, I mean, I guess 2% safe is better than no % safe, but
It's like 2% milk's better than whole milk, right?
yeah.
Not for making cheese.
But yeah, I'm like, we need to do something. I guess we need to get the kids out here. They're all into Joker and dressing up as ghosts and weird stuff. It's time to start scaring people. But they're the ones need scared, I guess. Oh, man, that was an old man moment. I apologize. We're going to go ahead and move on.
I feel like
Yes, thank you. It's okay. I retreated into the new Harley Quinn series. I was like,
It's so good. It's so good.
It's
But
so
yeah,
good.
those kids need to stay off my lawn. Anyways, let's go ahead.
What's
Go.
really scary is that I was just saying, I didn't get it out, but I was going to say you need to say some kids to stay off your lawn.
Yeah, I
And
know.
then-
We're all psychically connected. We got it.
what are we calling our group elemental? Shirley?
Shirley.
Oh, hey, B, by the way. I don't know if she needs to come up in this conversation, but we got to talk about B reaching out.
Yeah, we will, because that'll be a good getting spooky. But anyways, let's move right into this week's UFO sighting of the week.
Week.
All right, Josh, what do we got this week?
Yeah. So this one actually comes from, I think, a friend of yours.
Oh,
Stefan
yeah, my
Josh.
friend Dale. We just did last week. We did his listener story, and then he hasn't even heard it yet because as we're recording this, that episode hasn't even aired yet.
Right.
So he already hit me back up. Like, he was just like, oh, my God. And he sent me the listener story like 2 months ago. So it's just weird timing.
So this actually took place, looks to be on Sunday, 5, whatever Sunday was,
Mhm.
11, 5:10. I don't know,
Yep,
whatever
and
it was.
it's in Louisville as well, by the way.
Yep. So it says, around 11 last night, I was out in the backyard with Shelby, my dog. Sometimes I go out with her and I look at the stars before bed. Off in the distance, I see a white light with 2 smaller green lights, one on each side of it. I think, wow, I have never seen a plane come in from that angle before. All of a sudden, the thing starts bouncing up and down. At first, I thought I was having another stroke or something. Then it stopped. Then it bounced from side to side. Then stopped again. Then started bouncing up and down again. Just kept doing that, up and down and side to side, over and over. I got my roomie to come out and take a look, and by the point they were out there, it was partially obscured by trees, and he said, yeah, it definitely moving, but I think it's an illusion that it's bouncing caused by the tree. When I first saw it, though, it wasn't affected by the trees. One of my friends told me I was crazy.
Yep, friends. It's weird when it's your friends, right? Because you think that those are people who'd be like, well, I mean, if you said it.
Well, again, we've talked about it before, how instantly dismissive people are because it means they have to confront their own belief system.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, even the skeptic of me screamed for a minute as soon as he said he saw a UFO, because I thought, oh man, did he see Starlink? That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah.
And I hate that I'm doing that because, but as soon as he started describing it, I was like, oh no. And so, yeah, I was like, oh man, that's awesome, man. So I'm so glad that he sent that in. That's fantastic, man. And yeah, so it's like you said, it had green lights
On either side, and then
Yeah.
a white light in the middle,
Yeah.
which, I mean, most aircraft would have a green and a red.
And a red,
it wouldn't- Right, it wouldn't have both.
And especially
both
not
of the
that
same
one in
color.
the middle there, especially the way he talked about that it moved.
Yeah. Yeah, bouncing around and stuff. I mean, now my eyes have been doing some weird things lately. So, like the whole thing with the clouds, like
Yeah. Hey, weren't your eyes? I saw it too, man.
well, that's true. Yeah.
I saw it too.
So yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know.
interesting.
I know Kentucky has become a hotbed lately for UFO sightings. I've been seeing a lot more coming from Kentucky.
Well, you
Kentucky's
know,
always been a hotbed, but it goes through periods.
It does,
like,
yeah.
cyclically every like couple of decades. It
Mhm.
seems like they just
Yeah.
rev up, and then the nation catches UFO fever.
Yeah.
But they really like, and I'm not sure if it's just the Appalachian range, which has interesting theories all into intermixed with that anyway.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I just after after the docu series The Hellier, I am just really starting to see in everything that I watch and look into the correlation between where events happen and their proximity to caves.
Yeah.
It's just it's insane. I mean, look at so we just did the episode talking about Skinwalker Ranch with Keith.
Yep.
I've been watching the Skinwalker Ranch series on the History Channel. What's underneath the Skinwalker Ranch? Potentially a lot of caves and caverns. So again, it's just the proximity to caves.
Well,
and all
and
that,
what's close to Roswell?
Carlsbad.
Bad Cavern.
yeah.
Mhm.
So again, it's just the whole mentality or thought around, is it hollow earth? And are there, certain entry points and exit points for hollow earth that maybe intersect with some of our hotspot areas? So
Yeah, I don't know. Well, speaking of creepy things, let's go ahead and move right into creepy catch up.
Creepy ketchup, creepy ketchup, creepy ketchup. Y'all, it's creepy.
Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Creepy ketchup. Y'all, it's creepy.
I can't help myself.
It is. And you know what? I want to remind people that we do have a creepy catch-up T-shirt on sale. We actually sold one within the last couple days, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, ketchup bottle looks like Mothman. It's hilarious.
I've got ones in the works for you too. Once
I know.
but,
I'm waiting.
There's
Put 'em
other
up.
things.
we've been selling some shirts, so I appreciate that. Anyways, creepy catch-up. So for those of you tuning in for the first time, this is where we talk about things creepy that have happened to us over the last week, synchronicities, anything weird, odd, or any paranormal sightings or UFO sightings of the like, or weird dreams. For me, I'll go first since I can't stop talking, is 5 minutes before we started today recording, I was getting up to go use the restroom. My wife is gone right now. She's out picking up dinner for us tonight. And I'm here by myself in this house for like the first time. And all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Stefan." Like,
synchronicities.
and it sounded like a creepy old woman, and it sent shivers up my, like, even right now, because I know I'm in here by myself, I'm freaking out, up my spine, and I was like, now her mother has a tendency to play pranks, and they're moving back in from coming from Florida next week, and I was like, did she come early and hide? Like, was immediately my first thought.
Yeah.
No, it was not. It was not. It was legit, and it was pretty clear. Hey, Stefan. Like, she knew it was going to creep me out. Like, that's what it felt like. And I was just like, no, I hate you.
Well,
I gotta be.
Based on the voice that you provided, I think it might be the Jersey Devil.
Now, she was right here. Hey.
Now,
Hey.
if you listen closely, I think that's Kenobi's true voice.
You get out of here. That's Kylo's voice, man. But yeah, it was creepy, and it's definitely not. Trust me, Kylo he sounds weirder than our old friend's cat Dimitri. Like, he has his own special weird meows too, but nothing like this. Nothing.
You don't think your Alexa is becoming sentient?
No, I don't doubt that at all. It's very possible. But yeah, that's really mostly I've definitely had some weird dreams, and the energy has been really, really weird the last couple days.
What about any more night hacks since you moved rooms?
No, just that one where all I saw were
with
the
the
hands
fingers.
and the eyes.
Oh yeah, that was
yeah, that one creeped me out. So, but
That's
yeah,
creepy
no,
just thinking
it's been okay. I mean, but I've also, I don't know, I've been sleeping a little bit better. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. But you'd think, because usually these things happen when I'm stressed out, and it's been a stressful couple of days. But no, I've been sleeping through. But yeah, that's what I got. Somebody creepy calling my name, and I know I always hear my name being called, but that was special. That was different. So,
yep.
Anyways, who wants to go next?
So I'll
hitting different.
I'll go next. So I've had just some weird. So the only thing that's I guess necessarily creepy is I have at night when I'm sleeping or getting ready to go to sleep. I'm like, we settle down, all lights are off and stuff. I feel things jumping on the bed, and I have a cat.
4 little monkeys.
But the cat jumping on the bed feels different, and usually like something will jump on the bed, and then a couple seconds later the cat will jump on the bed. So something else is sitting on the bed or getting on the bed. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is just some really odd. We did that episode, with Skinwalker Ranch, and then we got contacted with someone in an email about Skinwalker Ranch. And then we did the episode talking about time travel, and I get contacted from someone talking about time travel. So it's just really
well, and it's interesting too, because Skinwalker Ranch, that was the 3rd time we tried to record it. There was almost a point where I felt like we were being pushed not to, because the first one we recorded, but we had so many technical difficulties that we couldn't. It just wasn't working. It wasn't just on Keith's end, it was on ours.
Yeah.
And then the next time we record, schedules got mixed up, and just craziness happened. We couldn't get a hold of each other and all kinds of stuff. And so when it all came together, I was like, okay, what's going to happen? But I mean, I've checked the recordings. Everything's good so far.
So so that's really all my creepy catch up from last week.
Nice. Josh, you got anything? I mean, Josh.
Does he got anything more?
Hey, Josh, you got anything? Santosh, you got anything?
Well, reactions to both of you all, and then a third one. So, starting with Josh's, Stefan and I have talked about how we've lived with ghost cats, right? And a lot of times they would jump in bed with me. That's one of the most often things that I would have is that, and there's a specific feel to a cat's walk on a bed. The jump, the pause, the movement, and the resting, and then you reach to pet and there's nothing there. And you're like, okay, that was
nothing,
longer than just a.
There's nothing like a cat, like it jumps so differently than a dog does or a human does. Like,
well, and a cat that we had for a long time. Just recently passed, and so I wonder if
I wonder as well.
Yeah.
And then Steph, you're having auditory hallucinations, or whatever we want to call that, clairaudience, right? Episodes. Yeah. Mine have been kicking up too, so it's something that I've been talking to others about. Happens around between 1 and 3 in the morning. And it sounds like somebody partying, which, quarantine times, people crazy, no sense of time. Walk outside.
My neighbors.
Well, I walk outside. You'd be able to hear it if you were outside. And I've checked both ends of the house, and no one is doing music. And then there's also little other ones, but I don't count because last time, actually, part of my creepy catch up was auditory hallucinations, but the hypnagogic ones, which are related to fans being on. But these are very much, more like conversations and things. And, my rule is I don't listen in just yet. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with that if they start talking to me.
Yeah, you know what, man? I didn't even think about this maybe being creepy catch up, but yesterday, Sarah comes upstairs. She was doing laundry in the basement, and she comes upstairs and she's like, Stefan, I think something's burning. And I'm like, man, I was like, did you check the dryer? Is it just some hot dryer sheets? Or can you smell something behind the dryer? And she's out there. She's like, no, I don't smell it. Right. And we go. She's like, please come down and please check. So I come downstairs. I don't smell anything. Until I walk into the laundry room, which is where the main heater is. And I'm smelling, and I can smell it, right? But it's not coming out of the heater, but it's not over by the washer and dryer either. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, I'm sniffing everywhere. I cannot find the source of this. So I'm like, I'm going to go check outside. I'm feeling walls. I'm feeling doors. I'm feeling everything to see if it's hot. Nothing. So I go outside. I go out the back door. I don't smell anything. I get around to the back of the house. Boom. Smells like wood burning. But there's no smoke. And I look next door because the wind's blowing that way, right? So I look next door. I'm like, maybe they're cooking something. Nothing. They're not even home. And I'm like, what the heck, man? But it's strong, or it's scaring me. I'm like, it's kind of burning. Like I can smell it. Burning my eyes and my nose. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And I'm sniffing the dryer vent outside. I'm like by where the fireplace is. Like everything. I can't find anything. And I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't see anything. There's no smoke. And so I go around and I go out to the front, and then I smell it again. And I'm like, what the heck? And the second I leave my property, nothing. I walk back into my property, I can smell smoke. I take one step forward, nothing. And the wind is cutting, man. It's blowing. It's not blowing it away. It was the weirdest thing. And it got to the point where Sarah's seeing this and feeling this too. And we're not seeing any smoke, but we're smelling. We've checked every nook and cranny of the house, outside, inside, nothing. And it was not in the house besides that small pocket in the basement. And I was like, Sarah, we just got to let it go. I don't know what else to do. And we'll check on it in 30 minutes. And we checked on it 30 minutes. Nothing. It was gone. I don't know what, and I didn't even think about it being spooky or weird till right now.
Yeah, there are psychic smells. Were you there in college when I went through the old lady powder at I don't want to say names but our friend with the feline name,
yeah,
her house when
I don't
we would
remember.
go over there.
No.
Yeah, I walked up into a cloud of it's specifically that old Avon talcum powder. Scented talcum powder smell, and walked like through a cloud of it, and everybody was downstairs and nobody else was in the house, and I'd already walked up and down and and did it again going up to the bathroom, and went right through one of those smells, and our friend was like, yeah, that's the woman who lived here before us. You can sometimes
So my great granny lived in Alabama. I went to a house probably a couple times when I was a kid, and she always hung peppers from a string in her kitchen to kind of dry out and to get ready for cooking. And there was always just kind of this weird smell, I don't know how to put it, that was in her kitchen that was the result of those peppers hanging there. So the other day, I go into this back room where I was sitting when we record, and I go to turn the light off, and I smell that smell. And I'm like, that's weird. So then I turn the light off and I leave, and then I'm headed back upstairs, and I turn around no, let me go back and check. So I go back into the room, and I still smell it. So it's just really weird that, because it's probably been 32 years since I've seen her, and she's been dead for 20 something years at least. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I feel like we're about to sneak into some regular topics, so let's go ahead and get right into our main topic, which is getting spooky with Santosh.
Yeah.
Hey, blanket huggers, Stefan here from FearScape Paranormal Podcast, and do we have a scary good deal for you right now? If you head over to fearscapepodcast.com/Gamefly, you can get a 30-day free trial Gamefly subscription on us. Now, if you're not familiar with Gamefly, it's a game and movie rental service where you can play the hottest video games for systems like the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, or even the PS4. You can get up to 2 games or movies out at a time, and you can do that an unlimited amount of times a month. Josh and I love to play our game systems, and I am really enjoying the Final Fantasy VII Remake right now. And if you're like me, games are too expensive to buy and beat in the same weekend. Well, with GameFly, you can get it and keep a game as long as you need. Then you just send it back and get the next game on your list. So head on over to fearscapepodcast.com/Gamefly today and give it a try. All right, S. So we're super pumped to have you here. You and I have shared a lot of spooky experiences over the years. Our path together has been one of weird and spooky and crazy awesomeness. So I am biased and privileged because I already know most of these stories, but I know Josh doesn't know a lot, nor does our audience. So yeah, we're so excited. So one of the first things that we like to ask our guests is, what was the first paranormal thing that happened to you, and at what age?
Oh, really, really, really good question.
Yeah, like what was that when you were like, what is this, right? When you first became aware?
Well, I've got to go. Well, okay. Well, let's start with that last trigger word, aware. Several like that we can hit. They were doing placement testing in kindergarten, and I was looking at the test, and there were two. They did one in the cafeteria, and then they did a set, like there were 2 rounds of tests. And I remember saying to myself, why don't we remember this? This is so easy. This is kid stuff. What? And I remember the feeling of forgetting
Wow.
at 5 years old. I don't remember anything about who I was beforehand, but for me, I distinctly remember the feeling of forgetting.
It's interesting.
And not forgetting something I knew, you know what I'm saying, that I'd learned as a kid, but like what you or me now, if you were to take a kindergartner's test and then feel your ability to cognize at this level being taken away.
Well, it's interesting because I've actually had conversations with both your mama and your mother over the years, like talking about spooky stuff, obviously, and different stuff, and talking about you, and both of them have said, you know, that they always thought at an early age you were very self-aware and very aware of things like that early on. So
yeah, I was an odd child. Unfortunately, I was also a traumatized child. You know, so that feeds into a whole different side dialogue as well. So was I weird because I was weird, or was I weird because of the traumas that I endured?
Who knows?
Right?
Who knows?
And who knows? But I do know that I remember forgetting. I also remember making a memory. My toes were in the grass and I was looking down, and this was in Perryville, Kentucky, outside of what I sort of identify as my first house. But this would be around ages 3 or 4. And I look at my toes and I go, I'm making a memory. Now that one I can say, like, having studied like you know, like the brain and like from a paranormal aspect. I don't want to claim things that I'm not, you know, be like, I was a neuroscientist. No, that's just a hobby. Like, but that it pulling that memory out so often in the telling of it helps polish it. So is it that I remember it, or is it because it's one of my favorite stories to tell that it's stayed so pristine for so long?
So
tell
what's
the waifu hi, and I love her. I just saw you mouth to the side.
Shut up.
So, you know, I always think it's funny because my brother doesn't believe that I have memories going back to when I was like 3 years old that I can easily recall. And so it's really refreshing to hear someone who also has a similar talent, so that I'm not just making something up. Because what he'll often say is
it's
that,
probably in my book, Josh.
But no, what he'll say is sometimes is that I don't really have a memory. I have a memory of someone telling me about something that I did or had occurred.
Oh,
to
I
me.
hate that.
Yeah.
And so it really bothers me because I do. I mean, I have a very profound memory of a lot of different things from when I was that young. So.
Until we need you to use it.
I'm definitely like, so Stefan will attest, I also have a natural talent for forgetting things. That's been throughout the life, but I bet you know as well, Josh, that there is a distinct feeling from an implanted memory, which what you said your brother was telling you when somebody's told you how it was, and you fill in with the information. They can get really real, but they still
they're very different.
Yeah, like I want to say like quiescence. They have it like they have a something about them that.
Yeah, I was almost gonna say cloudy, but that's not right.
Yeah, cloudy. I like that word.
Well,
that fits in well with how I feel about it.
And so I've had some dreams that are so realistic that I wake up questioning whether it was a dream or not. And those things stick with me. Excuse me, they kind of feel like foreign bodies, if you will. So it's like a memory, but it feels foreign. Is it really a memory, or is it just a memory of a dream or whatever?
Let me tell you, this literally just happened. So I had gotten Sarah a Princess Leia t-shirt for Mother's Day, and because our fur babies. And anyways, I was looking everywhere and I couldn't find it. And I remembered that it had come in a couple days before. I remember opening the package, seeing the Princess Leia, and then going and putting it in the hiding spot, like to hide it. And I couldn't find it anywhere. And I'm looking all over the place. Well, the day before, I had gotten a notification from Amazon saying that my package had arrived with that. And I was like, they messed up. They sent me that like 4 days ago or whatever. And there was no picture. You know, Amazon will take a picture. There was no picture and anything. And so, I mean, I tore up this room, like looking, I tore up the basement. I mean, I looked in my car. I'm going everywhere. And there it is. You can see for those watching. Don't mess with the princess. But anyways, like I'm looking everywhere. I can't find it. And I'm really frustrated. I'm really mad, but we're going to go get something to eat. And as we're leaving, our neighbor across the street goes, hey, Amazon accidentally dropped off this package to me. And there it was. And I was like, how? I said, I remember.
Quantum shifting.
And then I realized it had to have been a dream. I must have dreamed about it. And it was so real. Or, like you said, quantum shifting, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, the Muggle explanation would be yes.
Or mandala, whatever.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, yeah, I forgot all about that. Like, yeah, that totally happened, and it weirded me out. Luckily, it saved my mood because I was pissed. Yeah. Because I couldn't get in touch with Amazon because they were like, oh, we're overwhelmed, so we're not taking calls. And I'm like, oh, man.
Carol Baskin. So also around that age, this is funny because this links back into when I was living in England, working at a sandwich shop, one of 2 jobs that I had, and I was talking to an astral projector who was like so far advanced that his stories were just phenomenal. But it was one of those, he's like, I don't talk to people about this. And, and I was like, no, dude, I get it. Helped me remember a thing that I used to do when I was a kid, when I was around 5 years old. So I would be laying in bed, and my favorite thing to do would be to spin my body on a pole axis in the middle. And the feeling of falling back into my body, it's like a rush. I don't know, like if you all like, okay, hold on. Everybody has this experience. You're in a dream and you wake up and it feels like you were levitating, but maybe you were just sitting up. Regardless, it's that feel of the head like smacking back down into the right.
Yeah, so, I've woken up bouncing on the bed, like because I was
right. Probably a early indication that I have an addictive personality. I was addicted to the high of reintegrating my astral body with my physical body. But I used to love to spin upside down and look underneath my bed. So, like imagine holding onto a pole at your waist, and I would fall backwards through the bed and then look at the stuff under my bed and then speed up to slam back into my body. And that high, I liked that feeling.
That's incredible.
And I didn't really associate it, but that is astral projection in a way, but I didn't ever think of it like that until like 21 when I was living in England and having a conversation with an astral projector. So random thing that I did besides being an imaginative kid. So do those count as early first experiences?
Oh yeah, that's good. It's different. It's different, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah. So if I'm, I got to know, because and this is probably a really fast forward into the future, but I want to make sure that we talk about it because Stefan has talked about it before, and I hope this is a comfortable topic. But the troll under the bridge.
Oh, that is a good story. Oh, talk about clairaudient audio hallucination, supernatural, just fuckery. Oh, okay. So this was during a tumultuous time in my life. I like to refer to it as one of the few psychotic breaks that I've ever had. Like it took a lot. The story is really big and I'm getting off track. Let's just tell this story. This story is one of many that were like great fireside stories that happened back to back to back to back to back to back.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting. All three of us we all went to that school.
Yeah, you knew me at this time, and so you know that bridge. You know, like, and everybody called it, you know, like but it was just kids graffitiing, you know, like now back in the day, I'd love to see those symbols and be like, okay, this idiot got that from there. It, you know, there was no real witchery on it. It's just graffiti, and so thus it was cursed. So I had just taken one of Stefan and I's theater friends back to her dorm. I had walked her back and I was feeling very gallant. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just some times where it's like a lady lets you treat her like a lady and you're like, yay, you know, even my gay ass loves that. And so I was on that personal high, like walking back, and it was at night. And do you know how that bridge is on a corner road? Yep. And there's a house. And so basically that corner of that road is this house's yard. And it's distant from this. So you kind of have to take a right. So from looking at the bridge from where I was, you have to take a right and cross over it to get to a set of dorms that were down that road and off to the left. So, you know, not even close to seeing those dorms. I'd just taken the long way home because I just wanted to soak up the good feelings. So I'm midway through this yard, on the road at this point, and I hear, hey you. And I stop and I look around and I'm like, it's like, over here. And that's when I realized the voice is coming from underneath this bridge. And this is one of those stereotypical, like, circle at the bottom storm drain. What? No, it's not.
Nope. No, I'm just saying, hell no, I'd be gone.
Oh, I was like, yes, it is. You saw that bridge. I was like, what you?
No, I'm just saying, go.
Oh, I know. Well, that was my reaction. And back then I was sassy, right? and I under the bridge, and that's what I said. I said, oh, hell no. Didn't we learn anything from the Three Billy Goats gruff? And, you know, like, now, mind you, this is a college student standing in the middle of the road at night shouting at a bridge across
Billy
the yard.
Goats gruff.
I can't imagine the crazy that I looked like. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, no, seriously, dude, come here. Well, I didn't say dude. It's like, no, come here. I got something I want to tell you. And I was like, no. It's like, and it goes, what are you, chicken?
Like Marty McFly over here.
And at that point, I can tell, like, something flips, and I'm like, oh, this is a voice in my head. But at the same time, I keep talking out loud about it, out loud to it, and I'm like, there's no way in the hell I'm gonna let a voice in my head talk to me like that. You know, but now here's the difference, like, pause in the story, TO, if you will. There's a difference between remembering voices in your head and when you hear a voice in your head.
Mm-hmm.
There just is. I don't know if I can explain the difference, but there's a clarity. Also, when you're making it up in your head, in your imagination, you can kind of feel yourself squeezing that imagination muscle. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of know you're participating.
And I mean, as haunted as that campus is, man, I don't
story
think
among many. Now,
I don't think it was in your head.
Well, here's where it starts to get weird.
My bad. My bad.
Yeah. Hold up, I'm not done. So, you know, like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is some sort of imagination, let's just roll with it, like theater kid, I got this, like, and I'm like, there's no way I'm letting a voice in my head talk to me like that. And it said, get the fuck over here. And it's voice, and I start, and I'm like, oh no, and I run diagonally through this fucking yard. It is screaming at me, and the weirdest fucking thing to this day, like I get goosebumps talking about it. Like the voice got quieter and quieter and quieter the further, and I ran back to the dorm, and it was screaming after me, and nothing came out of the bridge or chased me, but the voice literally, like, not like Doppler, but do you know what I'm saying? Like where
as you distance yourself, it got
physical distance equated to auditory.
I mean, you were social distancing like a mug.
Right? 6 feet away. Shit, I was
600
I was more than
away.
200 feet away,
In 60 seconds flat.
Yeah, right. Like a road runner. Meep, meep. And I was out of there. And and it had all these creepy qualities, and that's why it's been one of those polished gems of a story, because I was not actively trying to make it up. I was not pleased with the interaction. I also there is a type of that kind of codified or became the bar of when something in my head is not something I would say is mine.
Yeah.
And I've had other psychic experiences where I've heard intrusive thoughts, like someone singing in their head has popped into mine during a test. Stefan, you know who this happened to. And like, again, I don't want to say names because people aren't there, but let's say there's a popular girls toy, and that would be the last name of this person. So I'm really bad at not saying names. Don't put me on your Pictionary team. So that was one of a series of them. So now we got to tell a couple more from that time.
Have at it, man.
One of Stefan's favorite, and I've heard him talk about this one on the, like on the show too, is the roommate demon episode.
Yes, I am the Stephen King of Friends stories.
Well, funny name you chose. I'm gonna have to. We'll call this person Steven for sake of what you just said, right?
With a PH.
So this living in a different set of dorms, same campus, right? We're still talking about that university, and it was in the fancy ones where there were private rooms and a shared common room and bathroom. And so in those small rooms, there was a bunk bed pressed against the wall, right? The length of it. You couldn't move it around. You'd have to take the bed apart to take it to move the bed sideways, right? Yeah. And 2 of those beds, it would be longer than the room was long, if that gives you sort of the dimensions of it. Very small room, just enough for a bed, a closet, and a desk, right?
Yep.
Hey, sorry to interrupt real quick. I just got the weirdest deja vu that I've heard all of this before.
It's one of my favorite stories. You might
have. I don't know. I just the whole explanation of like how the room was laid out and the 2 bunk beds side by. It's just very spot on. So
that makes sense for a couple of reasons, because we're talking about some super paranormal shit right now, and also because Stefan's told the story before. And you probably thought he was making it up. He was just quite liberally taking my words.
Yeah. I scribe what Santosh says. And then I use
he actually has an eidetic memory as well.
I use them as anecdotes later.
So sorry to interrupt.
Santosh is my Bob and Tom.
I take that. I love Stefan. And so laying in bed, stressed out about all these supernatural things that have been happening to me, and also like cue in the fact that my dumbass asked for it. There was just a point, and I was still teetering on the edge of Christianity at that time, but I couldn't resolve paranormal experiences in my life and certain other things that were a natural part of it, and the version of Christianity I was being taught. Couldn't resolve those, but I was basically had hit this point, and I was like, look, all right, God, I'm ready. Lift the veil. I can take it. I want to know. Show me. And I very specifically remember that prayer because it proceeded like, and I prayed it with fervor, which we can talk about like yogically, in a different discussion about how like that's one of the prerequisites of like quick enlightenment is if you want it bad enough, you can short step the time spent, but it's a frenzied type of want. And like, so right, like feeling kind of like I brought it on myself at the same time, trying to be like, oh, this is cool, but what do I do with all this? And it's kind of spooky and I don't really know what to, some of it's scary and some of it's awful and da-da-da. So all of this is tumbling around. It may sound like I'm rambling, but no, that's what my brain does. And I was laying in bed and I remember the bed is by the wall and I turn to lift the curtains out of the way and look back. And I turned around and I go, oh shit, Steven, what the are you doing in my room? And sitting on the edge of my bed. And so like you all can kind of see it. So in that typical gargoyle, like, you know what I'm saying? Like hands and
perched.
feet. Yeah. Like perched like a gargoyle, like my knees here, like hands are between the feet and staring at me. And two things occur at once. A realization that no movement had been made on the bed. There was no weight. It did not bow down. For some reason, I observed this. Second was just the realization, you're not Steven, which I then say in very horror movie. I was like, you're not Steven, who are? And it said something to the effect of join us, and then spoke something that sounded like German choking on a chicken bone. Now, later in D&D, I would come to call this abysmal, not as an adjective, but as a language and like of the nether or hell regions, which fits well into a narrative format, but I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It just, the best words I had was it sounded like German choking on a chicken bone. And
so
Klingon the fuck out of me. And so, I love Klingon, but yes and no. And I do this, I clench and I turn and I flinch away and I turn back. And just from the feeling of turning my head back to check, simultaneously, I had the feeling of waking up. And so I did not dismiss it as a dream. I had to talk about it with a lot of people, but that was just enough. And now I wonder, years later, was that it receding from the room? Did that feel like the sensation of waking up? Yeah. But if it was a dream, it was beyond hyper real. And another thing happened, and I said this with the first, second, or third retelling. It did not take very long. I said, and I remember him having red eyes, but he didn't. But for some reason, when I accessed the memory, he had red eyes. He did not during the experience. So you know how we were talking earlier, how you feel like memories have been manipulated, and in the telling of it, I was like, I want to say that they were, and I can remember it, but I know that's not how it happened.
Well, it's like,
isn't that odd?
It's like, it makes you think about all of Stefan's night hags, and they all have red eyes. And again, does he act, or do they actually have red eyes, or is he just remembering that they did? So
like a memory filter. Yeah. Right. Or,
maybe we're not meant to see what's behind that red.
Or also, like, is that just the best our subconscious can do to say, I saw something more, but you can't, but we don't have a common language for you to access it?
Well, one theory that I saw is that one of the reasons we see light so much in terms of UFO sightings and cryptid sightings, and we see these red eyes and they're always lit up, right? And these, or even green eyes or different things like that, is that these ultra-terrestrials or these extraterrestrials use light as a language. And that well,
it's data, yeah,
right, because we just assume they're going to talk through their mouths or telepathically, but they may use colors or light or something.
So I'm having a mind-blowing situation. Like, also think about
alert.
Yeah, think about the rainbow shrimp, right? You know what I'm talking about? This the thing that can like create this sonic boom, and it has 14 color rods?
Yeah,
and it sees certain colors as aggression. Like you can stimulate certain activities with certain colors. It perceives them as, do you know what I'm saying? Like it's not afraid of red. It sees them as, it has like certain reactions to different wavelengths. Right. And that it sees. And I'm like, well, hell, it makes sense. We already have that happening in the animal kingdom that we've observed, that those with different rods perceive that information differently.
So it makes you wonder too, if someone who's colorblind would still see things with red eyes or whatever in visions, or
would
whatever.
They be green eyes if they've got red green?
Well, I mean, so color blindness obviously is with the physical eye, but if that's all your brain has ever known,
right? Would it be able to process colors?
Yeah.
I've heard, man, I don't know. Now I'm questioning what I think I've heard, so I'm not even gonna say it.
Well, it's the same type of thing as, and this is getting way off topic, which I tend to do, but there's been a lot of discussion that I've listened to different documentaries and things. Do blind people who have never seen, like, so they're born blind, what do they dream about? And so, do they dream in color? Do they dream in
feeling,
high definition type, type?
Well, I do know that if they became blind at an early age, and had seen color at one point and seen things, then yes, they will dream that way.
They have technically sighted dreams. I've heard an NPR broad/podcast about it too, and I think that they were talking about some of them do have like what would be called visual dreams, but they're not what exactly you'd think by that there are things, and they do dream and there are colors and stuff, but it's interesting. Well, and like this is all sensory perception, and like me as a like sharer of yoga, that it as a swami, if you will, or a yogi if you must, that these are just sensory perceptions that ancient teachings have told us you need to divorce yourself from these. It's not that you need to stop interacting with the world, but that you're too dependent on the sensory motor organs for giving you your data, that there are different ways, that there is an internal sight, that there is internal sound, that there is internal generated stuff, because this is just electric impulses that the brain is turning into reality, which is often called Maya or illusion. But think about it. Your brain has to process this. So even in milliseconds, you are not perceiving real time.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Sound still has to travel through a medium. It did not happen from the vocal cord to the ear. It just feels like that.
Right.
And so even like people participating in a podcast, they're listening to it now. So something is happening, but your brain is interpreting electrical signals based off of sounds and grunts that we make, and then having a whole internal experience about that. It's phenomenal, like the whole relationship with the brain and the world. So I love pondering things like you just brought up, Josh. It's like, where are our limits?
Josh.
Well, I was just going to say the one thing that, Stefan, you and I have been watching that deep space thing on Gaia.
Right.
And one of the topics that in one of the recent episodes, I guess the episodes are from like 2016, but that we watched was, is the mind separate from the brain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they were talking a lot about even those that have what's called flat brain syndrome are still able sometimes to think and to do different things.
Have a high IQ and
Mm-hmm. I would say yes. Like at least from yogic philosophy, the mind is a different thing. Like chitta is different than buddhi. There are different levels of mind as well. Qualitatively, that's philosophical things to get off on the other thing. We're talking about fun, like supernaturally things.
I want to say during that same time, and with who we'll call Steven, you also, I believe, and I know this isn't really as spooky, but I feel like it ties in, that you went to some like prophecy church.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
To get like you and him went to get like some prophecies or something. And I just feel like at that time, like was crazy, and the same stuff with the Lindarians too.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I went to a witch's coven to have my own Joan of Arc, where they moment where they had literally hidden the high priestess, and I was kind of calling them out, because whatever I was operating on, I was able to see people referencing someone by looks, and I'm like, why are we playing Joan of Arc here? This is the real king. To talk to them about it, and a priest, and went to have another of our rolling friends. If you know whom I mean, whom I refer, that took me to went with me to go speak to a priest because I wondered if I needed an exorcism. And hold on, which one were you talking about?
I was talking about the prophecy church.
Yeah, where they laid on hands and they prophesied, and all I remember was a lion in the road.
Right, that's what I remember too. And I feel like I remember you said you like the lion opened its mouth and you put your head inside of its mouth. That's what I remember.
Yeah, see that one that one's lost. That because I didn't really. I guess I just haven't told that one enough for it to be stand out. I remember going, but that gets clumped into I went to several different. All of the spiritual leaders I could get a hold of in a short range. I would have went to more if I'd known of more, but then we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that and so like the paranormal was shunned. It's not like it's a fandom right now, so there were just we didn't have I hate talking old talk. We didn't have access to things. The internet was not what it is today.
No, there were some message boards, but they were so unverified. It was
exactly. You think you can't trust people to fucking day? Hell, back then it was just the wild fucking west of people spouting off bullshit.
People like Stan Romanek.
You leave him alone. He got beat up by a group of aliens.
But he used his mad fighting skills.
He did. Man, I'm telling you, we got to look at Stardust Ranch where that guy fought off the aliens with a katana.
I've been wanting to bring that up the whole fucking time.
It's one of my favorites.
Okay, so another story I want to tell real quick, and then you all can ask again, but I thought might be good, is where sometimes around me physics wobbles.
That's interesting.
Is the best way that I can say it. Now, don't worry, people. I am now in the professional medical healthcare system and have.
You ain't got to do all that because we're even crazier. Have you met Keith Age? No, but you've heard.
Yeah. No, well, I'm just like
he shoots psychics.
I just want to get it out of the way so I can just speak because it's all about authenticity for me right now. So I wanted to come onto this and be really truthful. Physics changes around me sometimes. A couple of specific incidences. One happened, I think you were a part of this one. So we were at the library, right? Our little Midnight Society crew. That might have actually been our poetry clutch that we had gotten to. I don't remember. We were leaving. I remember our librarian friend and our she who shall not be named, and even though I don't feel that way, but you know what I mean.
I know.
And then another friend or two walked to one way. So I walked with another set of friends, and we're not walking fast. We just left, so we're not running, right?
Right.
From the library front door to the parking lot was where the librarian was headed. I was headed the opposite way towards the chapel. So Josh, you probably know this direction too. Yeah. Remember how you swing around? We had gotten past the chapel down the hill when I was like, oh crap, I forgot to tell them something. And I turn around and start running back all the way around. So I'm on the opposite side of the library at this point, right? And we had been talking and I feel like I used a sci-fi reference to get to it. Actually, I've used sci-fi references to break physics a couple of times. It's funny. And I'm like, okay, between the tick and the talk. And it's not the first time I felt time change around me, and I run around. Of course, I'm screaming, and I stop them, and they all stare at me slack-jawed, and they're like, "Where the fuck did you come from?" That they had not made it to the car. They had not made it to the lot. They were I was like, well, so I had somehow gotten to them in them traveling a shorter distance than me and the other friends had.
Well, I think you were channeling Usain Bolt. That's what it was.
maybe, you know, like, well, honestly, remember our tall artist, lanky friend?
Yeah.
The roommate? He was chasing me once and couldn't catch me. I did that whole timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly thing and sped my little ass up. And so maybe it's just adrenaline. I've opened locks that shouldn't be able to be opened by talking sweet to them. Learned that in like, I think one of the Beastmaster movies or something like that, or one of those knockoffs. And I talked to it and then just twisted my thumb. And our friend who, you know how it's Jack, King, Queen, and so a card named friend, he witnessed that, me getting into a locked building at night that way. And he was like, I just tested this door, do you have a key? And I'm like, no, I just talked sweet to it.
If anybody would believe it, though, it'd be him.
Right. And I was in Scotland at the performing in the Edinburgh Fringe Fest, and this happened in front of an audience. There's a part where the main character is flogging me. So I'm in a maid's dress, wigs, breasts, everything, right? Like, and he's whipping me, and I'm supposed to jump up and then run around the couch. And so all of a sudden, I'm behind the couch. And I was like, I did that so fast, I jumped over this damn couch. I don't even remember, like, and I, you know, like, sneak off stage, and he grabs me off stage later, and he was like, what happened? And I was like, what? And he's like, how did you do that? And I was like, do what? And he was like, 1 second I was hitting you, and the next second you weren't there. And I was like, I don't know. You know, of course I wanted to be cool and pretend like I did it. And I was like, just jumped. And, you know, and so I must have just jumped fast, but someone on stage with me, you know, like, people don't stick around afterwards. I wish one of the audience members had done it, but that was also equally weird last time. But yeah, you know, so things like that, like, sometimes reality's thick and I've got to move slower through it. And I, you know, another friend has caught me on those days.
Well, and something else that, again, I'm gonna go back to that show on Gaia, but they're talking about the whole concept that NASA has with the ion drive disproves a lot of the physics understandings that we have. And so the fact that, again, all of our understandings can change at a moment's notice. So just because we understand physics as they are doesn't mean that's what they are. So,
and it for sure won't be the physics of tomorrow. Like, that's the very nature of the science that we participate in, is that, you know, it's constantly tested, reevaluated, and then when the new stuff comes along, like, gosh, look at medical science right now.
Right.
Like, pure witchcraft. Like a couple hundred years ago.
You look at it, it's like early 1900s, we fly at Kitty Hawk, and in less than 50 years, we're on the moon. Right? Yeah. It moved so fast. So why did it slow down, right? Like, that's one thing they talk about in deep space, is like, why did it slow down?
Did it?
What did we...
Well, yeah, it did.
Well, yeah, that too. But publicly, why did it slow down?
Yeah. Well, and we really innovated, and I know we're not talking about Santosh and his paranormal experiences right now, but we've really innovated internally. If you think about it, you know, we've got smartphones, we've got LED TVs, 4K TVs. So all of those internal innovations, I'm sure, are either byproducts or really, because you look at pretty much any major significant technology breakthrough that we have had as a human race over the last millennia, it's always been a military application that is later applied in the commercial space,
like Velveeta.
Spam, you know, but no, like,
we turned our attention to processed cheeses.
But, you know, I mean, you look at the internet, a lot of the medical breakthroughs that we've had have really started out as a need from a military application, and then later branched into the commercial side. So if our technology is advancing to this point from a cell phone perspective, makes you wonder for how many years it was at that point for the military.
It's part of why I think the military releases information, or the government releases information when it does, is it's almost like, here's some info, get ready for some of this. You
Right.
know?
Oh yeah, come on.
Like,
We all
especially,
know
like,
this.
all the MK Ultra stuff that's come out over the past couple years, and now like the Navy and the Pentagon's releasing these videos and saying
Yeah.
they're looking into UFOs. I think they're just trying to get us ready because
Mm-hmm.
we talked about it last week. It's like,
Yeah.
when the Pentagon released it, why was not everybody and their mother sharing it on Facebook? Because when the Navy did it a year ago, or when To the Stars Academy did it 3 years ago, we've already kind of gotten
Yeah.
used to it, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's very, very interesting.
Well, also, aren't you all a little disappointed by this new UFO shit? I'm like, well, the reason we don't care is because we already knew this. I've seen all
Yeah.
these videos.
Yeah, for real.
Give us something new, and I think everybody would be clamoring. But this is
Well,
shit
and
we
that's
already had.
my point. Is I think get
So-
ready. I think we're gonna start seeing some more.
Well, and
Mm.
so that's where I think that, to both of your all's point, it's the release of these videos from the DoD was not really a release; it was a confirmation.
Yeah, it was a
Mhm.
confirmation.
That they re-released them so
Yeah.
that they are officially from the DoD, but it is really just more a confirmation that yes, these are valid.
Mm.
Well, and even then, watching the Unidentified, how they talk about that, there are much longer versions of these videos that the government has that we've only received small portions of them.
Yeah.
You know,
They drop it
So-
out little by little. Like even Tesla's shit was locked away for release later. Like
Oh,
not
yeah,
not to bring in the
Tesla.
JFK stuff too, but this is what they do. They hold on to information until like they deem society capable of ingesting.
Right.
Speaking of which, I'm going to switch topics here because this makes me think about it. Is, people holding things. One thing that happened to you one time didn't happen in waking life, happened to you in dreaming life, and it has always piqued my curiosity. During a big bout of you trying to lucid dream, you got to the point where you started asking the people in your dream who they really were, as opposed to the masks that they had on as family members or friends, and that you had some frightening results from that. That has stuck with me forever, and I'd love for you to share that.
I've been trying to catch a traveler, and like that was the part of that. I think I thought you were gonna bring up when I met Titania and got told the history of everything.
Shoo, man.
So lucid dreaming, I'm a self-taught lucid dreamer.
I still can't.
Do you know what got me into it?
Mm-mm.
Saturday comics. Do you
Really?
remember Beekman? He was a Bill Nye competitor.
Yeah, Beekman's World.
Mm-hmm. And so Beekman and I believe Jax. Beekman and Jax.
Yeah, because I was in love with his assistant.
Yeah, it was the girl sidekick, and they would have little write-ins and science experiments.
Mhm.
And somebody wrote in about lucid dreaming. And so he said, and this was the very first technique I ever learned, think of a color before you go to bed. Look for the color in your dreams. Simple as that.
Awesome.
Everybody else gets on this whole big shtick of, dream journal and seed the dreams and all this kind of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Like it was seriously, think of a color, look for it in your dreams. And that got me started on training in a lot of ways. I've done a lot of different techniques and a lot of different trainings.
Right, I know you read like the Art of
Yes.
Dreaming and all of that.
Yeah. Josh?
Well, I was just gonna two things. I used to be able to lucid dream, and I haven't for the last like 6 or 7 years, and I don't know what changed in my life that made it all of a sudden not possible for me to do that.
Yeah, that's
'Cause I
around
could
the
do it-
time when you had kids.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe that's what it is.
You go in and out. I've had to set it aside. Like I reached the point. Now, this is not a brag. This is not even a humble brag. There comes a point in your lucid dreaming journey where you are not letting dream functionality happen. That whatever is actually happening in there, your subconscious is sorting itself out. It is filing shit as you're going. And so if you keep lucid dreaming, asserting your conscious will over top of what's happening, it can't do what the fuck it needs to do. And then you will feel sleepless, restless. And I've had this happen a couple of times in my life, when you can't tell the difference between the dreaming world and the waking world, because you've made that so fucking solid to mimic this. Which honestly, now I'm at philosophically, that's a fucking disservice to the dreamscape. Which I agree. Like I love through the Seth materials and different readings, that the dream state is probably more akin to our natural state than this is. This is just us participating in a 3D medium.
We've been talking about that a lot.
Forcing that framework onto your dreamscape, your dream life, is a disservice in a way. And seriously, if you're like, oh shit, I'm being attacked by Chinese nationalists and I can't rescue the nurse in the mud hut, I'm just gonna run up this bamboo stalk and fly away.
Don't be giving away my next novel idea.
No, well, that's seriously one of the dreams I had right before I had to set it down, because I was like, oh, I would just rather feel the experience of flying than let my dream process. And it took years to untrain myself to lucid dream, not to not lucid dream, but to not fuck with the dream. It is so hard to, like, you'll find, like, as you start to learn to go lucid, you don't want to pop the dream. Then once you can exercise control, then you've got to learn to let go of that and let yourself still dream. And that's about the time that you're talking about, Stefan, of when I was like, oh, okay, I need to let the dream progress and let it happen as it is without fixing, judging, or controlling. When I teach meditation, that's one of the things. It's like, your job is not to stop. Your job is not to change. Your job is not to what hell I teach, and I can't even remember my typical line. Your job is not to stop any of the thoughts. Your job is not to judge any of the thoughts. Your job is not to change any of the thoughts. And that's me as a meditation teacher talking to all of my students. You want to try to get to that level where they can happen. And so there's this divorced space. And in the dreamscape, that's really hard, because you're seeing some crazy, well, even in the meditation space, it's hard because some crazy shit rolls through there. And we want to believe that we're fucking saints, and that's not the truth. And we want to believe that we're evil, and that's not true either. You know, like we want to believe, oh, we're not good people, aka bad, or whatever spectrum it is. This is like, no, that's just value judgments. And to be able to just let those things happen, it's hard. But along that path, I was like, okay, so let's set aside the dream interp that you are every single person inside your dream as well. That you see your mother, it's not your mother, it's your view of yourself as mother interacting with that. That's true for certain ones. But I came across an African dreaming technique where all of your, like, when you beat an enemy or a bad guy or solve a problem in a dream and know you're dreaming, so that you have to be semi-lucid as well, you ask it for a boon to bring back to the waking world. A poem, a song, a story, a phrase to bring back with you from that scape into this scape. And so, you know, like, that was going on at the same time, me going, okay, there are people that dream, and this is kind of based off of like Carlos Castaneda's work as well. Like Don Juan had him work in the dreamscape, and there are people that show up from other dimensions in your dream, and when you meet them, it's kind of interesting, but sometimes they're just there not to interact with you. And that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
You know, just little looky-loos. Like, why the fuck are they there? And so right. Like, is there a fucking tour guide making money off this? Give me some astral Bitcoin, goddammit. It's my dreamscape you're watching. You know, like, give me some clout. Like, don't just be a voyeur. So I started questioning the people in my dream. I would be like, who are you? No, who are you really? And it's funny to watch the Matrix glitch in that level, because, you know, like, dreamscape's made up by your brain. Some just won't believe, won't break, and some won't talk, you know, like, some won't. But when they blank face and register you, it's a weird fucking feeling, dude. It's a, like, you know what I'm saying? When you watch something else take over and wasn't even really like, because there's two different levels. The ones that are actively in the avatar and interacting with you, or the ones that you've flipped a switch and then it's like they're waiting for the upload of the consciousness to then be like, oh, something's been flagged. Interact with this. Yeah, it's a weird fucking feeling is all I gotta say. Man, sorry, that took so long to get there. Yeah, that's what you wanted to hear, but
it made me, and I've always thought that, and I constantly have looked back at dreams and wondered, who is, and I've seen that concept pop up in various sci-fi shows and things lightly here and there, and some things like that. It's like, who's watching us? You know, it's like, is that all part of programming, right? Is there in our dreams?
But you got to be careful also, because it's too easy to fall into that I'm special and they're watching my dreams for a reason, or watching them every dream, you dream cycle. Hell, how many dreams do you have in a cycle? And you have at least 3 cycles in a night, you know, like 3 big cycles with the multiple cycles within them. So you're going in and out of all of these states anyway. The fun part yogically is to keep the conscious mind along for the ride without destroying any of it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to watch participating in that, oh, I'm special, and then that feeds paranoia. And for those of us that are neurodiverse, that's not exactly the switches you want to flip. You know what I'm saying?
So it's a little bit of an inception path here. Have you ever dreamed in a dream in a dream? Like, dude, what's the deepest you've gone? You
ready? Okay, so I have to be I call myself an avid dreamer. That's about the best that I can come, that doesn't sound cocky or scream, you know, like I'm a dream master.
No, that's Freddy Krueger.
Right? Well, I've had Freddy Krueger dreams. Never dreamt about him until the night after. It was clockwork. We've talked about this. I could watch the movie and go to bed safe, and friends would be like, why are you not scared? And I'm like, I won't dream about him until tomorrow night. And he never appeared. It was always the scenario. Right. And that shared dream space, that opened me up to that. So you're talking about getting called in dream loops, like nested dream loops. Yeah. I have lived entire lives in dreams and then woke back up to this. That's where I first really discovered that I was polyamorous. And I was like, oh, fuck, now I'm polyamorous? Well, that sucks. You know, but I was like, no, I've lived the life and I understand. Okay, well, you know, I don't have to be, but it's like, yeah, no, I get it. And I have been caught in loops where I wake and I wake and I wake and I wake and I wake. I have pulled myself out of a loop into an alternate reality. And I remember sitting in front of this mirror and I was like, oh, fuck, I'm stuck here. I woke up into the wrong reality. How the fuck do I get out of this? And I had to struggle with the thought of, do I have to kill myself in this reality to get out of it? And that was a real fucked up conversation to have with yourself when you know you're stuck in the wrong one. And I was like, oh, fuck, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? For years, that's just been a regular thing where I wake up. But that was probably exacerbated by the fact that my mother worked when I was a child, and she would pick me up sleeping and transport me back to the house, pick me up from the babysitters. And so I learned early on when I woke up, check for the light source, and does that match to a place I know? Wow. So that's how, you know, like I woke up as a kid a lot. Which probably feeds into this, you know, like dream loop thing. I'm sure that has an aspect, but there's also where you wake up and you do the same thing over again. And I've done a Groundhog's Day where I've done it several times. You know, like on average, I would say it happens 2 or 3 times, like wake up again, and then wake up a third time. But I've gotten caught where I've gotten in where I couldn't get out. And those are exhausting and frightening. That happened in Old Louisville when we were living there, and that I can't count it because it just kept happening. And I've suffered night hag syndrome as well, like for years. But once I learned to perceive that as failed astral reintegration, that's been my relationship with that has been completely different.
Interesting.
And so yeah, learned that at what is it, Blue Eagle in Albuquerque?
Yeah, Blue Eagle.
Yeah, that's where I came across Robert Bruce's book, which is the one that I showed you, Josh, like the big compendium of. It's got some really good stuff if you want to work on astral travel. So nested loops, and you said the deepest that I've gotten, stuck in another reality, a full night of waking up. So I don't know how many times. I want to say hundreds, but you're not counting. You know what I'm saying? You're not fucking counting at that point. You're just in a full-blown panic attack wake up loop. So
I've had times where I'm in a dream three levels down, but also lucid in each one. So like I'll realize that I'm in a dream, come out of that dream in the next dream, realize I'm in that dream, come
Inception
out of that
style. You did preface that. Okay, yeah, those can be fun when you wake back up and you're like, oh, I'm still dreaming. Because I like to use gravity as my tester. Because I can turn on and off lights in my dreams. Some people use that as one. That doesn't work. Reading, I can read in my dreams. And they're like, no, you can't. And I'm like, yeah, you can. The brain tricks itself. It's when you go and re-examine it and keep re-examining it, you notice that it changes. Like you can't memorize a thing. And that really sucks when you've won something in the dream, but it's written on a piece of paper. And so you're trying to memorize it. Oh, I hate that. I'm like, you bastards. I'll learn to stop accepting that as a gift. Eventually, one day. But yeah, so let's see. Where's the... I love showing people I can fly in my dreams, because that was one of my first dream abilities that I learned. And so a lot of times that happens, I wake up. And yeah, I would say with the Inception stuff, not that deep, less than 5, 3 to 4 on average. And those are, I don't want to say they're super rare, but they're also not common. Generally, because when I'm lucid, if I fall back out, it's dream state, and then I can go, but I can ride one lucid dream into the next. There's a technique for holding on through the darkness. And so a lot of times that is what we're talking about, but it isn't. I would consider that parallel shifting as opposed to depth shifting.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is what I think you were talking about, which I can do, but it's more, which is also really interesting when you think about it, like locational depth. Experiment with how high you can fly and the lower levels of your actual consciousness. So it's almost spherical in that way that you can branch out. And there's astral ways to interpret this as well, but astral travel is different than dreaming. Sorry, unpopular fucking opinion. It is not the same fucking thing.
No.
It isn't, like a lot of people want to be like, oh, I'm like, no, it is not the same fucking thing at all. You can cross dimensional barriers in there, but it's even rarer. Just because you hear it said once, it's like, oh yeah, that's what I do. I doubt it, but.
Well, I'm going to derail here.
Please, I think I'm rambling too. It's like, yes, deep. Josh, I do that. I love it. It's not as rare. I shift from one dream to the next. My newest goal is to see how long I can keep lucid at a stretch without popping it and without manipulating the dream. That's where I'm at currently on that journey.
Well, we are definitely starting to run long, so I want to start to reel this back in a little bit. And we haven't even scratched the surface, so we're definitely going to have a part 2 down the road. But I've got 2 things that I would love for you to hit on before we get out of here, and that's B and the table in Old Louisville.
Oh, table moving, yes. So we Ouija'd there. I want to say quite religiously, but then that creates connotations. What I mean is quite frequently we Ouija'd together. You and I have a damn near unbeatable rapport when it comes to Ouija'ing together. Yep. We trust each other not to move it, and for some reason with the two of us, that planchette will just fly. It's moved so fast sometimes we can't keep up. And we've learned to just we'll say letters out loud and just to keep it kind of going. And so we met someone named B. Oh, B's got to come back up. So this is B coming back around. Okay, thank you for bringing this up. So this smart ass comes along, and you get these little pesky little fucking spirits, and they think they're all shit. Well, if you got any witchery behind you, you can just fucking banish them. You can push them out of the board. They're not going to be in your house. And all this fucking baby witch bullshit. It's like, yes, if you're a fucking noob and a rube, a lot of this bullshit happens. But if you know how to take care of yourself and cleanse and actually ward your space, and you just don't
that's what I was gonna say.
Fucking with something before you're ready, then you've got, then your shit's covered. So someone comes in and she makes a joke, and she makes a joke that only I get, because you didn't know about Maud at that time. So I was like, who is this? And she says, yo mama. and we laugh and we're like, whatever. Funny, that's how we always know that she comes in, because she comes in sassy.
Very much like Aunt Esther from
with a joke. And so she flies on into the board, and we're laughing, and I'm like, really, and so we learn her name is B at that point. But the one time she comes in, you know, and you always, I don't care, even if you are friends, you're like, is the other person making it up? You can't get around that fear, like really.
Always.
But Stefan and I have, because of B working with us, and she came in and she made a joke and something, and then she spelled out, you know, Maud. And I was like, and I start laughing. And I was like, hey, and Stefan's like, what? And I was like, don't you get it? It's B. And he's like, well, no. And I was like, B Arthur was Maud. B is making a joke about. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And another time she made a joke that I didn't get, and Stefan laughed at, you know, like, and it's and actually B showed up for me at somebody else's house once too.
Same.
And so yeah, so B has jumped back and forth. She's worked with us, and she was working with the TTK. Did we talk about that? No. Okay. All right. We'll gloss over that. And you know, like, so basically she was working with us. Well, I ask her, here's the building up on the story. So she comes in quite often. We laugh, we have a good time. She goes away. We keep Ouijing for other reasons. I ask her to jump into my dreams. I say, I'm going to be looking for her. And she's like, well, I'll be wearing something green. Well, that night I'm in a changing room. Like a green, what's funny, it's actually a green room. I don't think I'm this fucking years old when I realized in a green room. The room wasn't green. I'm using the actor's term. I was in a green room. Right. So, you know, like when mirrors on one side, performance area outside the room, and a woman comes in and she's wearing a necklace, a green jade necklace carved into a Buddha, like a monk sitting in lotus position, making this symbol, the victory symbol in one hand, or you could call it peace. It's not the fuck you symbol from like Britain. It's the peace symbol, and holding a skull in the other hand. And I drew it back then too, because I was like, this is a thing. You know, like, and I asked her about it, and we confirmed later on the Ouija that was her. But it was this glowing green necklace, and I made myself one out of clay, and it looked like it was a really cool, actually. Like, and I wore it, and before I left to go to New Zealand, because I was going to travel the world. I just felt the call. I needed to go. And I wore that necklace, and I was like, I'm not going to take this off until I find where this necklace goes. Like, I'm supposed to meet someone. I just knew in my heart of hearts, I'm supposed to meet someone that this necklace is for, or resonates with. And I'm going to wear this fucker every day until I find that person. So I'm living on an ashram, long story, funny stories all through there, training in a tantric yogic lineage, become a Swami of the Dasnami order. So my Swami name is Swami Santosh Saraswati. I take that very seriously in the way that I am as a yogic monk, and the way that I teach. It's changed everything in my life. I often say yoga made me a better witch. AA made me a better yogi.
Picnics made a bear a better yogi too.
Right? Boo boo. And so there you often in this tradition of being swamified, that's my word for it. As part of this ritual, you give darshan, you give a gift, like not darshan, but dana. You give a gift to your guru, your initiators, to the ashram. It's a symbolic thing. Some people give all their money, you know, like in a show. My broke ass had no money to give, and it meant a lot to me. I gave my necklace to them, and they first thought it was because apparently in New Zealand there is it's just called greenstone, and it's a form of jade that's native to the island. And the Maori, the indigenous people, carve special little carvings to wear as these power pieces, as these totem kind of pieces. And they thought that was that. And I was like, no, I actually made it. And I was like, I'm not. When my guru sister, my other initiator, saw this, she saw her brother, you know, because I talked to her about it, and so she knew how much it meant to me when I gave it to them as well. Well, last week, I'd have to look, maybe it was less than a month ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, she reached out to me and asked me if I was still doing kirtan and things, and then she said, yeah, do you remember that necklace? I've got it. It was with Shanti's things, Shantimurti's things, in his hut. And so when he passed, she gathered up some of his stuff, and that necklace was still with my guru to the day he died.
Wow.
And so yeah, and it just got brought back up, and there were other things going on with B that we don't have time to get to, but I was like, isn't that interesting? You know, like coming back around.
Yeah.
She always seems to pop up when you need her, man.
Yeah, and that specific necklace made out of the thing she was wearing, pulled from the dreamscape, made into a real thing, given in a loving ritual, was kept and then brought back up in a time where the ethers were she was contacting too. So that, I mean, synchronicity, who knows? Good story nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. And then last story we can do is, I was hoping we could talk about the table, our seance-y type.
This was awesome.
In Old Louisville.
Yeah, and also, this is not for there, but we need to try that new style of planchette that I found hidden in the book that you sent us and you didn't read. We got to try that now too. So Old Louisville is the most haunted place that I've ever lived in.
How funny, by the way, that we lived in a Victorian neighborhood and started doing a lot of Victorian stuff, if you really think about it.
Spiritualist practices.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it till right now.
Today years old when I figured that out. Decades later, and figured it out now.
And real quick, before you get into the story, I will say that, so back when you started the B story, because Stefan had said, tell us about B and tell us about the table. I heard, I don't know if it was on audio on here, like if somebody in one of your all's locations moved, but I heard what sounded like a table being moved across the floor.
That's
not
interesting. Yeah, no, not here. My grandmother's asleep. The grandmother I live and take care of. That's a weird way to say it. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, she's been in bed for about an hour now.
Yeah, so. Sarah's snuggled up on the couch back there, so
interesting. Weird. But yeah, B's crazy like that. I wouldn't put it past her ass at all. I thought she would have said something. Hell, Stefan, that spooky voice could be B's ass too.
I know.
She would do something like that. She crazy. She crazy. So most haunted place. That's when I first started seeing grayscale see-through people. They're fucking ghosts, but I've not been able to establish communication with the visualization. And so we didn't even get to the most terrifying story I had, which was the guy in the 3-piece suit. So part 2, we'll save that for the like the non-humanoid creatures that I've seen.
Yeah.
We didn't even tell that story from Campbellsville with the thing smoking the cigarette and staring at me. Okay, yeah, that's a real spooky.
Gotta be a round 2.
Yeah. I know. Round 2. We're talking about table moving. So, we're doing Ouija and everything, and we come across a technique called table moving, where everybody sits around the table with their hands on top of it, and you ask the spirit to levitate the table. So Stefan and I and our roommate there, what do we call her? The roommate from...
She's Lizzie. She's fine. I've talked about her before.
Okay. So Lizzie was there too. So we're sitting, like on 3 different edges and everything. We're asking, and there's a little rumble and everything, and we get like a little bit of a response, and then all of a sudden, and it happened on my end.
Yeah, we're all already. Every rumble is everybody else.
Yeah, every rumble. It like, you're gonna see my hand. It goes whoop-bap, like raises like several feet in one corner. You know what I'm saying? Like goes like whoop-bap, and we all of us scream like little girls.
Yeah, so
only one of them's actually a girl.
Are on top of the table. Okay, and we got a high table on purpose so that our knees couldn't smack it.
A card table, so it was light enough to move.
Yeah, and so I'm the only one that would be able to probably hit his knees underneath of it, but it would have come up on my side.
Yeah,
but it comes up on Santosh's side. Like,
it wasn't hit from underneath.
Yeah,
it was like if all of a sudden you had tilted the table into the floor.
Yeah, it was weird, man.
But literally,
that instance
one side of it just picks up
That was the instance where Lizzie was like, okay, this stuff is real. Like,
and not like I'm sorry, just to clarify this, because you're like, well, if 3 people are sitting around, and Stefan and I were opposite, it must have been Lizzie. No, my right arm came up higher than the rest of the table. So one corner of it came up higher.
It
than
legit
all
was the one
catty corner lift
that would have been the hardest to do.
So
yeah, we screamed.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard Stefan scream before, so.
Mm-hmm.
I have several stories. When we saw the monkey cat together, Tracy Chapman blaring on the radio, "I got a fast car."
No, it wasn't fast car. Give me one reason to stay.
Oh yeah, and I'll turn it back around.
Because we were like,
back around.
Yeah. Anyways,
you're right.
But I definitely would like to do a part 2 with you sooner than later. So maybe sometime this summer, because I know we're booked through, I think, June.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
we need to get to the black elfin creature smoking a cigarette.
Oh, yeah.
I want to get to that story. And,
I want to.
The ghost in New Zealand, and
and I want to make sure we talk about Monkey Cat, because Stefan has mentioned Monkey Cat a couple of times as it relates to the Hellier Goblins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we will definitely need to talk. Like I said, I'd love to get you scheduled to come back this summer. I would love to do this sooner than later, so it's still fresh in people's minds.
I would love that. Oh, and the channeling time, because you were there to guide me through that.
Yep.
Which also, Josh, we've got to talk about later too, because that's something I want to do since we took you through the hypnosis session.
Yep.
Okay.
But thank you again, Santosh, for coming on. We're gonna skip our listener story since today was just a really big listener story. So we're all good on that. But again, thank you so much. You're always welcome on the show. We love whenever you come on and when you share your knowledge and information with us and our audience. We really appreciate it. Is there anything you wanted to plug while you've got the chance?
Santosh David 333 across most social media platforms. SantoshDavid.com should be back up and running soon, and via the Facebook, which is I'm most active on, the Santosh David 333. That'll have the links to all my active websites and stuff, because I'm going to be launching the sigil stuff, and I'm starting a weekly class called Psychic Sleep, which is yoga nidra, and that will be Sunday evenings via Soul Rebel Lex.
Very
that'll be, go to one of those, find me, Santosh David 333, and you'll find the info that'll lead you to the other cool stuff.
Will do, and we can probably share that as well, even though I always forget. But thank you again. We much appreciated. We are going to get out of here as usual. We got to go. But before we go, we want to plug our stuff. So make sure to check out FearScape Paranormal Podcast on all of your social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Those are all at FearScape Pod, FearScape Media on YouTube. All of this can be found on the website at www.fearscapepodcast.com. And Josh, why don't you tell them real quickly a little bit about our Patreon as well as our YouTube channel?
Yeah, so if you like the content we produce, you like the stuff that we put out there, the conversations that we bring you, think about maybe supporting us a little bit with a little bit of a monthly donation. Patreon, we got 4 different tiers. The 2 highest tiers get you a free t-shirt. Speaking of t-shirts, if you go out to fearscapepodcast.com, click on the store, that'll take you over to our TeePublic store. We've got some awesome t-shirts out there. Almost every single one of our t-shirt designs can be got on other things like mugs or canvas bags or wall art or pillows or any of that kind of stuff. Yeah, stickers, magnets, you name it, they probably have it. And all of that goes towards helping us to be able to, have, the equipment that we need to make the show, as well as eventually when we can venture back out into the world, be able to do some on location interviews or shows or that sort of thing. So if you like what we like what we bring you, please consider supporting us.
Right. And one of those things is producing our YouTube channel and our YouTube shows that we have on there. One being FearScape Unhinged, which, we're getting into producing video. And so that's a little more costly and a little more, there's a lot more stuff that we want to do with that. But yeah, FearScape Unhinged, check that out on FearScape Media on YouTube. That's us just shooting the shit, sharing our ideas and theories, unhinged, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you'll find other content on there as well, trailers and things like that. But go ahead and check all that stuff out. But yeah, seriously, let's get out of here. Santosh, again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all for tuning into Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in to FearScape Paranormal Podcast. This has been Stefan, and I will catch you on the flip side.
This has been Josh. The truth is out there.
This has been Santosh, and I still don't have a goodbye.
All right, folks, make sure to hold those blankets extra tight because you know things tend to get spooky when you listen to FearScape. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
I'm so glad you were able to join us for that horrifying discussion. I hope they didn't frighten you too much. Tune in next week for even more research into the nightmarish and haunting creeps and spooks that we tell ourselves don't exist, but we know they do. Make sure you have your blankets, that you hold them extra tight. Next time on FearScape.